the beginning of this new year, do you find yourself going a little bit nutty if you live with an alcoholic loved one? I'm going to explain to you why this is actually the worst time of year to be living with an alcoholic loved one. Not Thanksgiving, not Christmas, but January through March is the worst time to be with an alcoholic loved one. And I'm going to explain why right now. Hi, my name is Michelle Fondin. I'm the author of 12 published books, including this book, Help, I Think My Loved One is an Alcoholic, a survival guide for lovers, family, and friends. Now, in this book, I interviewed 10 alcoholics in long-term recovery and got their point of view. So if you are an alcoholic in new active recovery, this is a great book for all of your family and friends. And if you are someone who loves an alcoholic, who has someone in your life who is an alcoholic, this book is going to absolutely help you too. I want to welcome you if you are new to this channel. I am the author of 12 published books. I post videos on the topics of all of these books. Occasionally, I rotate back into the topic of alcoholism, addiction, and recovery. And in fact, I have 2 playlists that you can view. One is called the Alcoholic Loved One playlist. And the second playlist pertaining to this situation is the 12-step study. So please do subscribe and view all of those videos. They're really going to help you on your journey. If you are not familiar with my background, I was in a relationship with an alcoholic person for 5.5 years. This person is a great person. He's very loving, really kind, very generous. However, this person suffers from the disease of alcoholism, and I talk a lot about that in my book, and I talk a lot about my experience about being in a relationship with an alcoholic person in all of these videos on this playlist. And this video is no different than that. In 2018, I needed to separate myself from this person and this situation. And while it was very difficult, it was the right thing to do for both of us. You might be wondering why I say that the months of January through March are the worst possible months in the year to be with an alcoholic loved one. It's for several reasons. Now, the first and the most obvious is that it is New Year's. And oftentimes, alcoholics will cycle through promises with their loved ones. Now, notably, if you are in a romantic partnership with an alcoholic, whether that be your spouse, your boyfriend or girlfriend, long-term partner, whatever it happens to be, that is the most challenging in these moments with these promises. Now, it could be your adult child too, if your adult child lives with you. But let's go ahead and talk about the most obvious, and it's because of New Year's resolutions. Generally speaking, alcoholics and drug addicts will make deals with you. If you just let me drink through the holidays and enable my behavior, they won't say it like that. They'll be like, if you can drive me to parties, if you can make sure I have my favorite beverages at those parties, if you can indulge me, this is like the last hurrah. And starting January 1st, I will have my New Year's resolutions. We're signing up for that gym. We're gonna go on a workout plan. I'm going to juice. I'm going to go vegan. I'm gonna go vegetarian, what have you. And so they make all sorts of promises leading up to the first of the year. And so you excuse their behavior from Thanksgiving, if you live in the United States, through to the end of the Christmas season, and even through New Year's and the New Year's celebration. And so they want you to be quiet. They want you to not say anything about their behavior and their drinking. And they want you to help indulge them and they promise you that this is the last time. They promise you this is the last hurrah, this is the last time, let me do my thing, let me indulge for the holidays, let me go to as many parties as I want to go to, let me drink as much as I want to drink, because come the first of the year, everything will change. Now, by the time I'm recording this video, and it doesn't matter what time of year you're viewing this video, but it is January 8th as I'm recording this video. And while your alcoholic loved one may have started out strong, meaning they really did sign up for that gym membership, maybe they started exercising, maybe they started a new diet, maybe they did start juicing, rest assured that as time passes, their will wane. And the reason is because you cannot will away an addiction. It does not work. The second reason why January through March is the most challenging time to live with an alcoholic loved one is because when you are living in the Northern Hemisphere, which most of the population is living in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter time. Wintertime can be an extremely challenging time. It's darker, the days are shorter, it's colder, there are less things to do, right? You're not going outside, you're not enjoying outdoor walks necessarily, you're not going to the beach, you're not going on picnics. For the most part, you're indoors. And if you're indoors with your alcoholic loved one, which means that you are in the middle of the alcoholic behavior 24/7. And even if you work, you know that with the days shorter, you're not necessarily going out. There's not a lot going on in January typically. And so you're kind of in the middle of it. You're in the middle of it. And even if they made promises to stop, it's likely that at the very latest by mid-January, they have already started drinking again, if they actually indeed stopped. Because chances are your alcoholic loved one did not really stop, but they stopped drinking in front of you. Let me tell you a little bit of a joke story, but it wasn't a joke. It wasn't funny, and I still don't find it funny, but it's kind of funny. So when my alcoholic loved one made that New Year's promise and he had moved in with me, we were not married, but he had moved in with me and he made that Christmas promise. Just get me through the holidays, and January 1st, we go to the gym. We go to the gym every single day. I will be sober. I will have stopped drinking. It's all going to be good. And in fact, I thought that was what he was doing. But he would often go off in the afternoon. I'm not even sure if he was working at that time. The information's a little fuzzy at this point. It's been a while. But he would go off for some time, whether it was to see his son or do other things, go grocery shopping. And often he would come back and he would give me a kiss hello, and he would taste like an onion. And I was like, why do you taste like onions? Oh, I just had lunch. I had a Subway sub. I had onions in the Subway sub. Now, I didn't know this till years later. And he laughed about it, that one way to mask the taste of alcohol in somebody's breath is to eat an onion. And so he was eating onions every single day before he would see me again. So in fact, he had been drinking the entire time. It's just that he was trying to mask it. The other thing was that I found hidden alcohol bottles. Now, they weren't the full-blown, fifth of vodka he had the habit of drinking, but he would buy little sample bottles, like the tiny ones that you find in hotel rooms, in the fridges, in the mini fridges. And so he was accumulating these tiny bottles and kind of stashing them in different places, like the laundry room, the place you would least likely look for alcohol. And so, in fact, he had not really stopped drinking, and that is likely what is happening to you as well. So maybe your alcoholic loved one has made all these promises, and they are indeed going to the gym and working out and having a new lifestyle plan, but they are still drinking. And the third reason why January to March is the worst time is because of the restart of the holidays. So there is Super Bowl Sunday, and there is Valentine's Day, and there is St. Patrick's Day. And those reasons are the reasons an alcoholic will give you to start drinking again if they have indeed stopped. And so there is always a reason for them as an excuse to give to you that they need to drink again. Just this one day. It's Super Bowl Sunday. It only happens once a year. Just once a year. Indulge me with this. Like, I can still have a few drinks on Super Bowl Sunday, and the next day will be fine. I'll be back to being sober, right? And so on and so on and so on. So the craziness that happens in this sandwich between the holiday season, the Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday season, New Year's, and Super Bowl Sunday, all the way to St. Patty's Day, it starts that snowball effect again and again, and it makes you crazy. Because you're not crazy as much when they are drinking, but you're still crazy if you are in an active relationship with an alcoholic loved one who is actively drinking. Because the dynamics make you insane. They're insane, and so when you're in the dynamic with them, it makes you also insane. And it also makes you sometimes worse than they are, because you are, for all intents and purposes, sober, right? Maybe you do drink, maybe you drink from time to time, but maybe you don't drink alcoholically. Hopefully you don't drink alcoholically. And so when you're sane and sober, having these arguments with someone who has imbibed in alcohol and who is clearly acting insane, you're more the insane one because you're trying to reason with a person who cannot be reasoned with. So you might be wondering right now, Michelle, okay, what is the solution? What is the solution to this? You're telling me this is the worst part of the year for me if I'm living with an alcoholic person. What's the solution? Why tell me this without giving me a solution? Here's the solution. There is no solution until your alcoholic loved one decides on their own, of their own volition, to go into a program to stop the disease, to arrest the disease of alcoholism. Because yes, it is a disease. It is something that is so multifaceted that takes over so many parts of their life. It is a chemical addiction, an emotional addiction. It is a spiritual addiction. It is a relationship addiction. It fits into so many aspects of their life that unless they attend a program which can help them arrest the disease and help them to uncover the reasons behind why they start drinking again in the first place, apart from the chemical part of the addiction, right? But there's always an emotional component attached to it. The reason why they felt the need to start drinking alcoholically in the first place. It could be genetic. It could be the family lineage of my father was an alcoholic, my grandfather was an alcoholic, my great-grandfather was an alcoholic. I swore I would never be an alcoholic, and here they are drinking alcoholically. So it could be a combination of all of the above, right? But unless they are in an active program, many long-term alcoholics need to go into some sort of detox situation, but even a detox in a hospital, a mental health facility, is not recovery. That's simply helping their body chemistry adapt to life without the alcohol for a short duration of time. The body actually needs much longer than that to completely detox from the desire, the need, the drive to have alcohol as a part of the chemical makeup of the body. So it's more getting into programs, a 12-step program as an example. And I know many people are opposed to 12-step programs. However, they work, meaning when you apply the program to your life, they actually do work. It's like anything. It's like if you say to me, hey, I want to lose some weight. I really want to lose weight, but I don't really know how to do it. Well, if you join a weight loss program that helps you and takes you through the behavioral changes, then you are more likely to be able to lose weight than if you try to get a quick fix. We all know quick fixes do not work, right? Even people that get like bariatric surgery, that really does not work because it's not taking away the behavioral aspect of it. The why. Why did you overeat in the first place, right? Same thing with drinking. Why did the alcoholic overdrink in the first place? What made them start? Because while the disease is progressive, there was always a starting point. So the behavioral part of the program doesn't start with therapy with an individual therapist, because often alcoholics will lie their way through therapy and say, I'm doing fine, I'm doing great, I've been sober, I've been clean. But in an AA program or Celebrate Recovery program, the other alcoholics in the room will call them on their stuff. They will sniff out a liar very easily because they've been there, they've done that, they know. Now, the second thing you might be wondering is, thanks a lot, okay, there's nothing I can do, what can I do? And what you can do is get yourself into a 12-step program too. There's Al-Anon family groups, which is great. You could go to Codependence Anonymous. That also follows the 12 steps. You can get yourself into therapy. If you are a person who is sober and clean, meaning you are not actively drinking or drugging to an extent of an addict, then therapy will very much work for you. Now, I have put out a video talking about the differences between AA and Al-Anon and how I prefer the rooms in AA. And that is my personal opinion. But know this, I started by going to Al-Anon for about 2 years before I made the decision to continue the healing on my own. And so I was doing therapy, but I was also attending Al-Anon. So Al-Anon has value if you're starting from ground zero. Ground zero means I've had alcoholics in my life, or I have this specific alcoholic in my life. I'm not really sure how to navigate this. I don't understand it so much. I would say first and foremost, read my book. It'll really help you to understand so many things. And I would just say, don't just read it, but like reread it and reread it and reread it, because I really got down to the truth of this disease from a very personal level, but from the personal level of the 10 alcoholics in recovery that I interviewed, because they told the story from the trenches. And if you are not an addict, you couldn't possibly understand what it's like to be in the trenches of an addiction. So you can get yourself into the rooms of Al-Anon, Codependence Anonymous. You can get yourself in with a therapist, but do something, because it's not by trying to change your alcoholic loved one, and it's not by believing the promises that they make that they keep breaking, because they cannot make you promises and follow through. And know this above all, since it's the beginning of January as I record this, there is no exercise program, no diet plan, no food plan, no juicing plan, no fasting plan, no colon cleanses, nothing that will help your alcoholic overcome the disease of alcoholism. The only way to overcome the disease of alcoholism is to treat the disease of alcoholism. That is the only way. Now, yes, some people have gone into spontaneous remission from this disease through a massive spiritual awakening, but that usually doesn't stick. Here's why it doesn't stick. Because alcoholism, among other things, as I mentioned, is a personality disease, meaning there are personality traits within yourself, those addictive personality traits, that cause you to have that compulsion to repeat that behavior. And so what alcoholism addiction recovery helps the alcoholic with is overcoming those personality traits that have led you or led your loved one to compulsively drink or drug, right? And so again, no exercise program is going to do that. And then if the alcoholic is actively still drinking in any way, even a drop, even one single drop, therapy, one-on-one individual therapy will not work because they are going to lie their way through. It's kind of like that self-preservation mode. The self-preservation mode is keeping the addiction alive because on some level, the body believes that keeping the addiction alive is keeping them alive. So that's why it doesn't work until someone has been well sober, meaning no drops of alcohol, no drugs, because that's a switched addiction. No alcohol, no drugs, not even smoking marijuana. That's still switched addiction. And just going into total sobriety, being totally clean and totally sober for some time in group therapy like AA before actual one-on-one therapy will work. But for you, if you are sober and clean, if you do not have an active addiction, an ingestive active addiction, then it should be fine attending Al-Anon or Codependence Anonymous, going through ACOA if you had a parent who was an alcoholic or still is. And that would really, really help you. And in conjunction with that, you could also do therapy, but that's how you can overcome this and stop believing the promises that they make that you know they will break. So I hope this was helpful. I want to thank you so much for joining me here on this channel. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Make sure to check out those 2 playlists that I have. I'll try to post them on the end screen so that you can see them. Make sure to pick up a copy of this book and share it with others. An alcoholic typically touches 8 codependents in their life that they keep in their circle. So there are at least 8 codependents surrounding the alcoholic. They could all use this. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.